Hi, in this Grasshopper tutorial for beginners, we will do this shape here. What we can do with this, for example, we can change the number of these pieces here. We can change the thickness. We can play with the scale in the Z direction. You can also change the ratio between those two arcs, forming the bi-arc shape. Also, we can change the radius of this inner cylinder. And we can change the radius of the outer cylinder, outer circle. So let's start from scratch. So first we will bring a circle. Double click and we'll choose a radius. I'll choose a number with 2 decimals. Double click and look for offset curve to create the inner part. Now by default the offset is outward, so if we want to change that, I can right click in the expression, I can type -x. So now whatever I input as a number, it will be negative. Now in curve, analyze, choose perpendicular frame. This will create a perpendicular frame on this circle, and it needs a parameter. That means where on the circle we have to place the this frame. So I will use a panel, double click, type 0, and you can see we have a construction plane here. Now 0 means the beginning of the circle. Now you can imagine the circle like if you have a rope with 2 ends and you join them together to form a circle. So 0 is the beginning. In this case of this circle, the end also will be at the same place. So anyway, now we have a construction plane that is perpendicular to the circle. We will do the same thing for the offset. Control C, Control V. If you have a problem with the size of the grid, if it's too big or too small, you can go to display preview plane size, and you can change the size from here. Now what I need to do is to explode these construction planes here to get the individual components of them. So in vector, plane, deconstruct plane. So we have the origin and the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. So we can use any of those separately. Also, Control C, Control V. I will do the same thing for this here. Now we are ready to create the bi-arc. From curve, primitive, bi-arc. So what bi-arc does, it will create a 2D shape made of two arcs. And we need to supply, the starting point, the end point, and the tangent. So for the starting point, I will use the origin of this plane. For the end point here, the origin of this plane here. Now for the start tangent, I want to decide in what direction this arc will go. So in this case, we want it to go in the y axis of this construction plane. So we will use this as a start. For the end, it's the x-axis. So now we have this. The output, if you go to curve here, the output, we have three outputs. This arc, the first arc, the second arc, and the bi-arc, which is the whole thing. Now for the ratio, I will start with 0.5 with 1 decimal here. 0.5, nothing will change. It's the default. Oh. If I make this 0, this, if you look here, you can see that we end up with a line, not an arc. And plug in this here, you can read invalid curve, and we have also an invalid curve. If we make this 1, we'll have this arc. We don't have a second one, also it's invalid. And this one, it's the same as this arc here. So I will make it less, close to 0.5. Now let's say I want to be able to scale this shape in the z direction. So I can choose scale and choose scale non-uniform so that I can scale on specific axis. Now the object to scale is the bi-arc, and for the z-axis I can choose, let's say, 2, which is the double of its size. I will hide this. Now I will give this a thickness, double click, pipe. For the radius, now I need to array this shape around the circle. So from transform, polar array, Now here, by default, it will choose the 0, which is fine for us, but let's say we want to be able to manually change the location of the circle and the whole thing. So what I will do now, I will go back to the main circle. I will create a point somewhere here, bring a point component, right click, set one point, and make this and then I will use this same point as the center of the array. So now I can choose this, I can change the location and everything will move with it. For the count, I can hide these, just keep what is necessary. Now we need to create a solid between those two circles here. So we can go to surface, boundary surface. I need to connect the first circle and use the shift key to connect the second one. As you can see, it doesn't work and it will create two surfaces. So why this is happening? If I use a panel and connect the first circle, you can see that it is a one list with a circle inside. But if I connect this one, you can see it has a different data structure. Here I have a list and another sub-list, and inside the sub-list we have this curve. So when you plug those two together, the way they enter inside this component is like this. Now I will plug this one here and use shift. So the first the first circle, the main circle, will enter here as a component, as just a shape inside this big circle. But the second one, the offset one, will go inside as a sub list, and inside this sub list we have this shape here. So what's happening here is that a shape and a list, they cannot communicate with each other. So this component will go here, will create a surface for this circle, and then it will find a list, and it will go inside this list and create a surface for this. So what we need to do is that we need to flatten. Now I can flatten from here or from here. I prefer to flatten from here so I don't mess up anything that goes out from this, where I'm using it for these components here. So I will right click and say flatten, and this will happen because now those two circles will be in one list, so this component will deal with them together at the same time. The first boundary between them will be solid, and this will be empty. Now I can give this a thickness. I will use extrude. Double click Z, unit Z. Hide this. I want this thickness to be downward, so I can right click, expression, minus X. I will choose a value. Now I can select those here using Shift, Control C, Control V, and I can plug this offset curve. I will choose cap, hole, to make it close, extrusion. Now it's going downward. It's going downward. I can right click here, and in the expression I can remove this. Now I can start giving some colors to these components, to this geometry here. Double click, preview, custom preview, hide this, double click, swatch, color swatch, Control C, Control V, hide this, and if you like to continue working on this, I can give you 2 exercises. First, for example, here, if you like to extend this to cover this portion here, try to find a way to do that. As a hint, you can take this circle here and maybe offset it outward, and use the offset with this inside circle to create the surface. Also, this part here, you can see that the pipe is sunk a little bit in the ground, so you can try to find a way to move it up a little bit. And as a hint also, this point here comes from the origin of this construction plane. So maybe you can add a move tool to move it up, and then use the move point to create the bi-arc. Anyway, that's it for this tutorial. Hope you like it. If you do, please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next tutorial. Thank you.